Hi, EJ. Thank you for being my guest today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
For the audience, how EJ and I met was actually at the AI user conference, April in San Francisco. It's by a very beautiful place by the water, and then it's Marin too. And you were starting to work on your sandwich. Remember that? And I come
Yes.
over there and I was like, I came all the way from Mountain View. And then I'm kind of hungry and I'm like, okay, where do I get a sandwich? So I walk up to you and I ask you, hey, where I get my sandwich? And then we start a casual conversation
I
about
think
AI.
we're talking about how lackluster the flavor of the burrito was that we were both eating. And I was saying, how's a burrito? I was like, it's okay. And that's how we started. So,
hmm So tell me about your journey. You had a very cushy job. Why a startup?
I think there's two things. Like one, I always believed in using your time to the fullest. And I think there's a point in time when you're at a large company where you don't feel that as much. You feel you're working in cycles and you're making a lot of progress, but not necessarily end user impact. And I always working closely with the users because you kind of see the excitement, the joy they get when they're using your product. There's really nothing close to that. Um, the best way to achieve that impact and that value and that sense of feeling is to work at an early stage startup or do your own. I had done my own startup before after leaving Google. I had to pause a little bit because being the responsible father I am, I want to make sure our family is fed. So got a day job, but then I couldn't stop thinking about we have a limit of usually typically 30 years. If you look at a normal person, 30 to 40 years.
Yeah.
And you really want to do the most and provide value in this world. So I think that more inner layer deep desire that I always had. And then especially with Tofu, a lot of people saw opportunities with ChatGPT happening, new framework of how we do work was changing.
hmm
And I've been working in AI for quite a bit. My first job was at Google doing speech recognition and training language models, actually, of all things,
Wow.
in 2013. But things have changed, and AI has done a lot of things. But 2022, something really interesting happened where AI was not just doing ranking, not personalization, not recommendations, but it was creating that new content. So we were thinking, oh, that's really interesting. What function in a company really relies on creating content a lot? And if you think about it, the marketing teams, their whole job is to create campaigns that really, becomes top of mind for their prospects. And by nature of that, they create a lot of content, be that emails, landing page copy, sales enablement material, case studies, one pagers, whatnot. So we embark on this journey to really understand their pain points, see if there's a really wedge where we can help them create more campaigns effectively. So that's kind of how we started Tofu.
So the idea strikes you around 2021, and you're still working. I think were you at Facebook
2022,
or
I believe it was
2022?
2022. I was at the
2022.
firm at that time. Yeah.
You were at a firm. Okay.
Yeah.
You're a director of engineering. You had a very comfortable, cushy job, and you see that there is this problem that you can solve that is a real problem. And there is something that you can add, basically. It's a real value. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to go and build something just because to figure out the way some founders, I guess, start their journeys. Like, okay, I just want to be a founder, but it's about solving a real problem.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I do think there are people that are disproportionately geared towards doing something that have more high agency. And I do think that's kind of the core underlying belief of why they want to do the founder journey. So I resonate with that sentiment as well. But then if you actually think about, okay, what is the business that you're going to build this upon? That you do have to have a premise in terms of why you believe this is a really core pain point that has not been solved and why it's now possible today. So understanding that deeply is 100% a requirement. Yeah.
Right. So where was that point where you decided now it's the right time that I can leave a firm?
I knew I was going to leave.
Mhm.
I feel this goes back to the some founders are like this where they just know it's their path and the big company thing is not my thing. And that was same for me as well. I knew at some point I wanted to start my own journey again. I want to found a company with amazing teams, members that can create great products, great services, provide real value. So that was
Mhm.
not a question. It's more about like the right timing, the right business, the right partners to work together this on, and less so about whether I'm going to do it or not. Yeah.
Speaking of the right partners, I know that it's a huge challenge for a lot of early stage founders. When you want to start a company, how do you go about finding the right people to join you early on?
I think it's really important. You just spend so much time with them. I'm not a huge believer in the quote unquote co-founder dating or matching. I think those can work, but I think the best relationships do happen organically and ideally over a longer period of time because you really get to know them as a person. But yeah, I can't emphasize enough how much important it is. It's also tricky though, because just like any relationships, like you can be in a very long relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good one for that scenario. And some of the best relationships that I've had, starting from my wife, like it happens and you know it in a relatively short amount of time, and then you somewhat commit. So it's not like you always have that luxury of like having to know that person for 10 years. And then that person also happens to be a great business partner that complements you, right? So you do have to make that leap of faith in your business partner, your co-founders as well, just like anything. So it is less of a, hey, these are the 10 check marks that I need to check. Check 9 out of 10, hence let's work together. It is a bit more of a getting to know each other, feeling it, whether it's the right fit. And sometimes you do have to make that decision to go forward, even though you don't have the full information.
I was looking at your last post on LinkedIn, and it really resonates with a lot with what I'm hearing from the founders in early stage companies, early stage startups. And you were pointing out that if the hiring goes wrong when you're very early stage, it's more up to you than up to the employee, because naturally you won't know 100% of the spec of that role. So that's why you want to hire people. So first stage is to find the right, founding team. And then after that, you want to hire the right people, the early employees. And you were pointing that for founders to be able to make better decisions, you want to be transparent that you don't know everything right now about this role. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you kind of solve that challenge for yourself?
Yeah, I do think it's something that I think founders and early teams should be more deliberate about. And trying to define that more. But like I said, like a lot of times you are searching. So I think the biggest risk takers in a startup are actually the early employees, less than the founders, right? Because in the founders, you have equity, you were in that very early journey, but the early employees are truly making a very conscious decision to take a risk. And I think the least we can do is give them transparency in where you are as a business and, as a company, and like where you lack maturity and where you're excelling. So they're very aware. And a lot of early employees end up being founders themselves because they're problem solvers, they're thinkers, they're people with high agency. I remember this quote from Max Lipton, that was the founder and CEO at a firm earlier at PayPal. And he was saying, when you hire someone, and you look into their eyes, let's say after a few weeks they've onboarded, you look into their eyes and you say to yourself, I don't see this employee being here in a year. It's not the right fit, right? Whereas opposed to, there's employees that are really hard to work with, right? They're very strongly opinionated. They have maybe some quirks, but they just do stuff, right? They will figure things out. They will make it work. They will propose new things. Those are the folks that you want to keep. So I keep thinking about that. And ideally you have both, but it's not always the case. But you do want doers. You want people that are go-getters, which I think what ends up being a lot of these early team members, these people eventually become founders. The best you can do to them is being transparent with where you are. On the flip side, same thing. These are people that have to figure it out together. If you have that mindset, you will do great things in a startup. I think this is true, by the way, for larger teams as well. When I was a manager in a firm and Facebook as well, you want people, employees that have high agency and will do things for the team, for you, for the company. And then you trust them with even more things. It's really interesting. The people that are busy get more work because the leaders trust them with more things to do. Right. And the people that don't have much work get less and less work. So it's kind of this weird situation where like the business people keep getting busy because they find a way to make it work and they get trusted with more work. But again, at an early stage startup, it's even more important that we have these people. So hence kind of that situation where we need to be transparent from a business perspective, but also employees that are able to do that excel.
Right. So a sense of ownership, I really love to know, how can you tell if this person has that sense of ownership? Is there any specific questions that you'll ask them? Is it their tone? Is it their body? Like, how do you know if they're going to have that sense of urgency and ownership?
It's a good question. It's a hard one. Initially, I thought it was just all about, well, not all about, but large part also how much energy they have. Do you feel they will make stuff as opposed to being more passive in discussions? We've actually had employees where from initial first reaction, maybe they're not the typical go-getter, super high energy, flowing with ideas type of person, but they have super high ownership. They will steadily plow through things and get things done. So it's not just always about energy. I do like to ask questions and how they've done work in the past. I like to always go to deep dives on a project that they've done, either that's engineering or go to market or design. I like to do a deep dive on one project, like if it's a sales rep, like talk about a very specific, prospect that they either won or lost. If it's on a design, maybe talk about a specific project. And I always ask this question where a lot of times people gloss over. I ask them, and share me what you specifically did in that project. And there I get a lot of signals. So it's a few categories. There's the people that say, oh, we had this, and then I had my team work on it. So you kind of see this idea of more delegation, more outsourcing of the actual execution. There's people like that. There's people that talk into what they did, but it's still very at a high level. So I know like they haven't really gone into the details to get to the root of it. So maybe their work was more at the superficial level. And there's people that can come up with very concrete anecdotes on what they specifically did to turn the project around, right? This was going to be a sinking ship, but I did this very specific thing that ended up being a way for us to get this project done successfully. If they don't mention that, I ask them again, like, okay, so what did you do? And the answers to that a lot of times lead to some idea of what this person will be able to do with high ownership and high agency. But it's not necessarily bulletproof. A lot of times you do, unfortunately, get a sense once they join, which is, by the way, why we also try to do a lot of trials. We do paid trials where once they've kind of passed the initial interview, engineering, product, design, customer success, we've done this for a lot of our functions, where they do a paid trial for, let's say, a week or two, and they work on a real problem together. And then you get a really quick sense of how fast they are, how much they're willing to push the boundaries to make this happen. And they get a sense of us too. Oh, what is it like working with EJ and the rest of the team here at Tofu? Otherwise, you're going a little bit blindfolded into the company. So we want to make sure they get a sense of what it's like working at Tofu, and we get a sense of how well they'll work once they join.
So a 1, 2, 3 weeks trial, basically, as opposed to like, a 3 months,
Oh, yeah. We try to keep it short. I think it's good to respect their other opportunities they have as well. Like within the first 1 or 2 weeks, you do get a really good signal. So
that's brilliant. I've never heard of that. I'm curious how this method is working for you.
We've seen cases where we were initially excited after the interview, but once we did trial, it was clearly not a good fit. And then there was obviously candidates where we did the trial and then over time we got more confidence. The good thing about trial is also sometimes we give them midway feedback. So after 2 days, we're saying, hey, this is great, but we would like to see this part. And it's always great to see how they react to that feedback. And some of our best candidates are very quick to the feedback, and then we'll almost flip the way they've been doing things. For example, we have an engineer that's very meticulous and she's amazing. I remember giving her the feedback after the first 2 or 3 days, like, I know you're very meticulous and that's what we love about you, but this is important for us. So we'd love to have you think about that. Then immediately the next week, she was able to make that trade-off and say, okay, these are things that are unknown, but given that, this is the thing that we want to ship, and she would just start shipping. So again, another great signal that we get that you would otherwise not get in an interview setting. How do they respond to feedback? As in the response is not verbal or commentary responses. How does that actually show up in their action? You can actually measure that and see that and evaluate that if you do a trial, which is great.
That's amazing. Wow. Great takeaway. Um, let's talk a little bit about the product. I saw that you've talked about Tofu Pages. It's a new product on Product Hunt that you've released it last week, which is last week of May, it would be, because right now it's the first week of July. Tell us a
June.
little bit about
Yeah.
June, sorry. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about Tofu first. So Tofu is a platform for B2B marketers to create campaigns effortlessly across different channels, all in one place, which is really AI first. So I know ChatGPT is becoming more and more mainstream, or they're using it to create a lot of different things. But there's a few things that our platform provides. One, really focusing on the team. So instead of having single threads, we create a unified platform where you can create campaigns and content where the prompts and the templates and the style guide and the tones are all shared across the team. So you can ensure that every single content that's coming out of your team is really on brand, is connected, and is effective because it's not created in silos. It's created on this platform that over time is getting better because we also learn from your performance of your campaigns. Another differentiator we do is we do omni-channel content. So we create marketing emails, sales emails, landing pages, the blog posts, social posts, case studies, one-pagers. We're launching slide decks as well soon. So Google Slides, PowerPoint. We create these omni-channel campaigns, which are really at the core of what the marketing team does once you get to a certain stage. And then being able to output the content in the end format is really important. So let's say using ChatGPT, but this is the copy for my landing page. What am I going to do? So we create the final landing pages. We create the final email that's in your HTML template that you're going to push in HubSpot. We create the PDF for your case studies. We create the slide decks in Google Slides and PowerPoint. So being able to create the campaigns and the assets in their end format is really key of what we do. We have this platform. Our primary target customers are customers probably around 200 plus employees. So we have more fast growing startups all the way to large enterprises like RingCentral, Fastly. These are some of our great customers that use Tofu every day. Teams that are more sales led really resonate with our tool. If you're a more product led company, then your product's doing a lot of the work and you're maybe focusing a lot on organic content. Sales companies, they have so many different channels. They're doing events, they're doing webinars, they're creating case studies, one-pagers, they're sending emails, landing page copies. So our platform being able to create all that content is a huge plus for them. Talking about Tofu Pages briefly, yes, we launched this landing page personalization experience that was such an important part of our offering that we wanted to tease out. So it's more generally applicable and usable across more people. It's a simple Chrome extension where you can install today and then personalize your page for anything. It can be for one-to-one account-based marketing. It can be for one-to-many, for creating like persona or industry-specific pages. You can use it for localization. So a lot of our customers want to create a localized version of their website in French, German. It's a really quick way to do that as well.
Well, that's amazing. So everyone who's listening, you guys can go check it out. It's on Product Hunt, Tofu Pages.
Yeah.
I was also peeking into your competitors in this space, and they are Series A, Series B with over $100 million raised, and you are still, according to the LLMs, because that's how we do it these days, you're standing out significantly. And I want you to tell us, in what would you say is the features that you're offering to your ICP that you would say differentiate you from others that are big players on the market?
Yeah, depends on what specific competitors that you're referring to. One thing that we do really well is the omni-channel part. The omni-channel part is huge, being able to create campaigns for different channels in one place. There's a lot of tools that just do landing page optimization, personalization, a lot of tools that do just emails, right? But being able to do that all under one campaign and one platform is really helpful for more coherent messaging and more effective campaigns. So the fact that we have this under one platform is really a big differentiator. I mentioned the end formats that we output to. That's a big thing. And then the third thing is all these integrations that we have. So we have integration with HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot, Outreach, Salesloft, you name it, in terms of like the email automation. And on the landing page, we work with any CMS provider like Webflow, WordPress, Contentful, your custom built CMS. It doesn't matter. We work with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Google Slides, PowerPoint on the slide side. So we have a lot of these deep integrations, which ends up mattering a lot because unless you have these workflow efficiencies from a marketing standpoint, you're not going to be able to really operationalize all these gains that you get from generative AI. That's a big part of what we emphasize on.
Got it. So if you want to say once again, who is your target market? Because you're a B2B, marketing teams use you. Is it all industries? Is it a specific vertical? How would you define that?
Yeah, it's not vertical specific. We have seen actually, so if our companies are a vertical SaaS company, it works well. The reason is, let's say you go targeting construction or you're going to medical tech or health tech, they have very concentrated TAM. So a lot of the personalization makes a lot of sense for them. They use our tool for one-to-one ABM, one-to-many ABM. So vertical SaaS companies work well. Companies that are about 200 plus employees really work well as well because they're running multiple campaigns simultaneously. Being able to execute and manage that effectively is also a huge plus for them. Sales-led growth companies also work well because, again, they're deploying multiple channels in their marketing team. I would say those are the large buckets. People that want to do ABM or have an ABM program but want to do it more effectively, those are also customers that really resonate with our tool.
Mm-hmm. So the major three buckets would be the 200 plus employees on their teams that are in the marketing team specifically, or is it all?
No, it can still be lean, like 3 to 8 people.
200 would be so massive for a marketing team. Like it should be like a Google or something, right?
What's that?
I'm just correcting myself because I said 200 plus marketing team. I'm like, that's so massive.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah.
We have larger teams like that as well from some of our customers. But I think, like when you're doing many different things simultaneously, I think that's where you see a lot of the gain from our customers. Okay. But we do have smaller teams as well. So we have customers like 100 employees, 80 employees, and they see a ton of value as well. I think when you become smaller, it really depends a lot on your user. If you're a marketing leader at that small company, it's a really AI first mindset buyer and like user and really want to adopt AI first and foremost in terms of how they operationalize their go-to-market motion, then it really works well. So we have like a lot of customers with one marketing leader and maybe 1 or 2, marketing managers doing demand gen and product marketing. They really create content really, really effectively. So we've seen that work well as well. Larger companies, they have more opportunities across where they can find value in tofu. So that's one reason why it works well for them.
So different sizes of companies, sales-led and vertical SaaS, they can all basically be. For those listeners who are not specifically that much into AI or very non-technical, what does it mean when you say, or any company says, this is AI first? What does that mean?
It really grinds me when I see a lot of the companies that says Gen AI first or we're an agentic platform where under the hood, it's usually more marketing speak and not really embedded in the product. And it makes sense. It's really hard to change the entire product interface. You put in like a lot of work into coming up with that interface that the customers are both accustomed to. And then you built your engineering and your tech stack around. Being able to change that interface entirely is not an easy job. A lot of times when people say generative AI, what they actually do in the product is they have their initial product, which is their initial way, which is more manual and more cumbersome, but they have a button that says, oh, get some ideas with our AI. And they give you like 3 options, right? That's the extent of what they're doing with a lot of the Gen AI generations, or let's say maybe agents, right? Under the hood, it's just, again, manual, more bespoke workflows that they've linked together as opposed to pure agentic, the AI models understanding the intent of the users and being able to pick the best tools for that. So there is a gap I see from what people are claiming the product does versus what it actually does. When I mean AI first, really, can you rethink the user experience, assuming we have this huge technological leap and make our product 10 times faster? I'll give you one very specific example. Data entry, your input to your platform, right? Typically, the way SaaS tools have operated is you have some interface where you can upload information, right? Be that CRM is a great example where you're uploading information and everything from title, role, Maybe you upload from a CSV and maybe they do integrations. Oh, let's say you have this set of personas that you want to target. You have to define that somewhere. If you really fundamentally think what AI can do now is it's really good at understanding and parsing unstructured data. So we've had this kind of middle UI framework where for two systems to understand separately what they need to do to do their actions, you have this middle structured data form where we now require the users to input, right? Again, like this could be a CRM field, it could be like a database or what have you. The great thing is, because AI now is so great at understanding unstructured data, you don't have to have someone re-enter that data in that new format that new tool requires. Instead, you can just give it the link to the Google slide that you had somewhere, or the PDF that you have somewhere that has that information, or the chat that you had in your Slack channel, and you can just dump that. And it's just a very liberating way of being able to do your work without entering the information in a way that this tool understands. So what we've thought about getting you up and running, it's like, you don't have to enter anything. Just give me all the links to your Google Drive, upload your PDFs, and we will understand that and use that information to create the campaigns effectively. That's just one area where the UX 10x improves, because now you don't have to do any manual entry. We're using data or information and assets that you already have. You don't have to reformat anything, yet we are able to still parse that information and use it in a relevant way. So that's what I mean AI first. There's the ways where you can rethink the UX. And there's like so many of these across the entire platform, which is hard for companies that have existed previously, previous to this stage, to now suddenly change.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much. I would love to give a couple minutes to yourself. If there's anything that you want to touch that I didn't ask about, that you want your listeners, which is going to be a lot of your ICP in here. Is there anything that you want to point out, either about the product or anything, where AI is going, how you see Tofu in this spectrum? Anything around that.
We've seen a lot of change in behaviors of marketers in the past 2 years. And we think that's going to accelerate. There is such a fundamental shift in people in terms of how people do work. And by that matter, it's true for any other function, but the employees that are able to leverage this technology effectively are being able to get more done. I'm excited to see how, and this includes myself, right? As a founder and a CEO, to do my job, I'm constantly leveraging ChatGPT, Anthropic, our tools to make my work better and more effectively and have the right strategy for the team to work on. And it's almost a waste of this technology to not use. Just starting with text, but now we're seeing amazing things with images and video with the latest Google Veo 3. It's just incredible in terms of like how realistic they are. And I would just say for anyone out there, let's really try to stay on top of what's happening with the technology, because there's so much you can accomplish if you are now able to tie that with your day-to-day needs and your day-to-day workflows. And the people that are able to make those connections will make huge strides for them personally in their careers, but also for their companies as well. I would have that to say in terms of people that are curious of where this whole world goes. And then in terms of like how, if you want to uplevel your marketing organization using the latest technologies, we have everywhere from fast-growing startups to large enterprises using our tool effectively to create campaigns efficiently across their entire team and their organization while still being on brand and being able to create more personalized experience for their prospects. I'd love for you to try Tofu. Please reach out to me either on LinkedIn or my email's ej@tofuhq.com. I'm happy to show you a demo.
Thank you so much again, and have a great rest of the week. What is it today? Is it Tuesday? So still have a couple of days.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Cool.